Actually, I prompted Dan on this because I have a little bit of cryptocurrency, not a lot, just a little. And I saw an article last week that I forwarded on to Dan that this thing called SIM swapping, that
Yep.
some couple that had almost $200,000 in crypto, suddenly it disappeared. And so that, I mean, again, I don't have much, so it wouldn't really impact me all that much. But it's got to impact a lot of other people, right? I mean, so
Sure.
what's going on out there? What is SIM swapping, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Mike, first of all, thanks for having me back on. And going to describe that for you. But I read, first I'll start off by saying I read the same article that you and I must have been watching the same CNBC show. But I'll answer your question on SIM swapping. But it's interesting that this has hit a lot of people with Coinbase and a variety of other companies. It can actually affect banks. It can affect others. One quick story I'll tell before I answer the question, and that is CNBC ran a great story about a couple, a family, Tanya Vidovic. They had $168,000 in a Coinbase account that got wiped clean and down to like 500 bucks. And when they called, in this case, you can reference this. We put the link to it at a website, but you can go out there and read about it. When they called, and Coinbase basically said, your account got hacked, your phone company account got hacked. Nothing you can do about it. Nothing we can do about it. And they weren't going to reimburse them or anything. So anyway, but it gets down to SIM swapping. So really, everyone thinks about the SIM card, the little card they have on their phone. That many of you probably, if you've swapped, if you changed mobile phone carriers, if you've changed smartphone carriers, maybe been able to do that by keeping that phone number that you have. It's got that information about you, whether you're with, I mean, I happen to be with Verizon, but T-Mobile or AT&T or any other vendors. So the idea here is, basically the bad actors get access to your phone. And so they get access to your texts, they get access to your phone calls, and they pretend to be you. So at a very simple level, they get the phone company to allow access. We'll talk about some of the ways they can do this. That they basically trick people into believing that it's you, the customer service, or there's a couple different ways they can do this, and they basically get access to your account. So when they have that access on your phone, and we've talked in previous shows about two-factor authentication and how great that is and how much better that is than a password, because a password can get hacked and somebody could be able to go in and get that password from a database. But you have two-factor authentication, they get your password and they're able to go in and they're able to get into your accounts. They're able to have that PIN when it's sent to your phone. They type that in and then boom, they've got access to your account. So SIM swapping is really the simple access by one of the bad actors to your smartphone, and they do that by a wide variety of ways.
Interesting. So, do you think this is the kind of thing that they're going to have to create, sort of almost like an FDIC of Bitcoin for, or what do you think the solution is?
I mean, this is SIM swapping for sure affects cryptocurrencies, and most of the big stories. Brian Krebs ran some great stories about this. Krebs on security. If you just look at a long list of people who've had cryptocurrency stolen, a lot of them are from SIM swapping. There are obviously other ways that happens as well. And it really, but it's broader than cryptocurrencies. I mean, this could happen for your bank accounts. This could happen for any account that you have. Once they've got access to your phone, they've got your text. Just think about what anyone could do if they had, they became you essentially. And so there are some ways that the mobile carriers allow you to protect your account. You can put a PIN on your account. You can add additional levels of security. So anyone who's watching, who's concerned about this, should call the mobile phone company and say, I'm concerned, please put some extra layers of protection on my account. You can put an extra security password on or a PIN, and you have to know what that PIN is. But again, even that, if shared, if the bad actors get a hold of that PIN, then they can, they become you, right? So then they can say, I'm Matt Rouser, I'm Mike Brennan, and here's they ask you the security questions or whatever, and they pretend to be you, and they get access and they get control of your phone. So I don't think there's an easy solution to this because just like so many areas of hacking, once you stop this, the next time it's going to be something else. It's going to be there's a lot of talk right now. Another hot topic this weekend and over the last couple of weeks has been using fake credentials for basically, biometrics, facial recognition, people fooling different types of security systems. So there's always going to be people who are going to try and get access to your account. They're always going to be trying to break in. This is just one of the hot trends right now because obviously cryptocurrencies have gone up a lot. It's a lot more popular to own cryptocurrencies, and a lot of people are subject to this type of attack.
So how do you let's define that? How do they get access to your SIM card? I guess I'm still a little confused.
Sure.
Explain that, please.
Sure. So, for example, somebody calls your phone company. So they call Verizon and they say, "I'm Dan Lohrmann." They're not Dan Lohrmann. They're somebody else. And they say they somehow have your PIN, they have your security password, they convince the person on the other end that they're in fact me, or they're working on behalf of Dan Lohrmann, and they then gain access to the account and they swap that. They either send us a new SIM card out, say I lost my phone, then I need to do this, I need to do that. I have this other phone. I mean, we had this with my family. Even SIM swapping can be a legitimate thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Where my son's phone broke and he had his SIM card, but we still had his old phone, which was like an iPhone 7. And so he took the SIM card out of the broken phone, put it in the old iPhone 7, and that now became his phone. So SIM swapping doesn't have to be a bad thing. SIM swapping, it can be legitimate for many purposes. Like I said, in the case of my son wanting to use his old phone rather than his new phone, and he swapped. I had security control set up in that example where I got emails saying, someone has swapped your SIM. If this wasn't you, please, email this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically taking your unique code that gives your phone, its phone number, its information, its where to go for texting. It gives the routing information for the phone companies, but it's taking advantage of that and having somebody else pretend to be you with their phone rather than your phone. So obviously, if it's done against your permission, then they have the ability to text on behalf of you, or they have the ability to make phone calls and your phone number. Makes sense, Mike?
Yeah, it does. And actually, the other thing that concerns me is I am a T-Mobile customer, and T-Mobile recently had 50 million phone records hacked. And so I went online and changed my PIN and changed a bunch of things. And I think I might even change some of my security answers because I was real concerned about it. And they just kind of foo-fooed the whole thing. Oh, well, it's no big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. 50 million records were hacked,
Huge deal. 100% agree with you, Mike. And there's a lot of great articles out there on this, what to do, if you have T-Mobile accounts, and absolutely agree with you that that the PIN information, many people use the same PIN for like multiple accounts. They may even switch carriers and to keep the same PIN. If you used to be a T-Mobile, customer and you're now at a new phone company and now, but you're still using the same PIN, you're still susceptible. So you did exactly the right thing. Go out there, change your PIN, change your security codes, and that information. My understanding is, and I don't know if that's actually been verified that it's been used on the dark web, but those credentials supposedly did include PIN information for those T-Mobile customers. So I think you did the right thing. And I think that I would advise anybody that was under that T-Mobile hack to change their security codes and passwords, the questions, your answers to your questions. They ask you, frequently asked questions, or hopefully they're not too frequently asked questions, right? But that security question that you answer, I would advise you to maybe update those.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else you'd care to mention? What's the other scary thing going on these days? Anything else?
So many. There's always something scary going on, Matt. I mean, right now it's it continues to be. I know we've talked about this several times, but it just continues to be just the amount, the scope and breadth and depth of ransomware and the number of attacks that are happening with ransomware. Just some more attacks over the weekend. Up in the Northeast, and it's just around the world, continues to be just almost relentless. Obviously, it's getting, the cyber aspects are getting overshadowed by some of the other headlines in Afghanistan, obviously the Hurricane Ida and other things like that. But a lot of fear. I did an article a couple of weeks ago in Afghanistan. A lot of fear about the system that the Afghan government was using, that we worked with them on, the U.S. military worked with them on, creating biometrics, biometric identification of citizens in Afghanistan that may have fallen into the wrong hands. Many reports that it did. The Taliban now has access to that system, so they can actually use that to go, God forbid, I hope this doesn't happen, but round people up, when we depart from Afghanistan after the 31st of August. So, I think there's a lot of fear that again, these technologies, which are wonderful technologies, if used, for good, can also be used for evil. So I think that whole issue of biometrics in Afghanistan is a hot topic right now. And Mike, you have to invite me back in a few months. I won't go into spill the details now, but I have a book coming out in November on cybersecurity. I won't tell you, but maybe we can do another segment on that when that launches. And it's going to talk a lot about incidents, what you can do before, during, and after incidents, and some really great stories from all over the world around cyber incidents.
Sure, we plug your compatriot Richard Steenan's books all the time, so we'll be happy to take care of that for you as well.
That's awesome.
All right, so go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was just gonna ask him that this is his time for his shameless plug. So give his address and talk a little bit about your background and the services you deliver.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. And it's always great to be with you guys. You guys are awesome. My Twitter handle is @GovCSO. I have background in NSA and then also in England with Lockheed and MITech, but then 17 years in Michigan government. So right now, my role is with Security Mentor Incorporated. And we do security awareness training. So make it brief, frequent, focused, engaging, interactive. You go to securitymentor.com. A lot of good material out there, blogs that I've written. Also write for Government Technology Magazine. So Lohrmann on cybersecurity. Encourage you to go out there. The topic we're talking about today with Mike is out at my blog at Government Technology Magazine, and lead story every Sunday morning. Basically a weekly blog I do out there. So it's great to be with you guys.
Well, actually, that story is also now on my website. I picked it up and cited your friends at Government Tech that it came from them. But it explains everything we were just talking about earlier on in the segment, and I thought it was important for folks. We'll pair the two together. When I produce your segment, then I'll also pair that so you have both the video and the text.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, and then any last words, any last thoughts? I mean, it's just getting scarier and scarier out there. For instance, my bank account is also on my phone. I won't say which bank, but should I be concerned? Should I take that app off my phone?
I do online banking as well. I make sure I use multi-factor authentication. One other tip that we give in the article is, app-based security is a lot better now. I think people are starting to, believe it or not, I hate to discourage people from using two-factor authentication, because I do think it's way better than just simple username and password. And most people don't even do that. So I still think multi-factor authentication can be very effective. It can be better than password only. But app-level security with Google and a variety of other companies that offer that is a better level of security that you can use. A lot of times banks use facial recognition now and some other things like that. So yes, I do online banking. I would just say, make sure you're using the controls that are available. Make sure that you're activating and you're not reusing passwords, that you're actually using the things that are available to you. And don't just use the simple default things and keep reusing passwords. And follow good cyber hygiene. And I think it is safe to do online banking.